The movie starts with a college football game, where a boy named Caden scores a touchdown, much to the delight of the crowd. Soon after, one of the opposing team's players named Brad knocks him down and then later headbutts Caden, causing him to bleed. Just as Brad is trying to rile the crowd after what he did, Caden jumps on him mysteriously and ends up beating him until he's almost unconscious, much to the shock of everyone watching. The next day, he eventually meets up with his girlfriend, Lisa, who he tells that he thinks he's losing his mind. Lisa offers him some comforting words, after which they start kissing. While they're at it, the clouds clear and the full moon appears, with this seemingly triggering Caden, who suddenly turns into a werewolf, therefore scaring off Lisa. In the morning, Caden wakes up and suddenly sees blood around the living room as he looks for his parents. When he sees them though, he realizes that he had killed them while he was still a werewolf. Just as he's looking devastated about what he did, Lisa arrives with the police, but before they can enter the house, Caden turns into a werewolf again and escapes. His story is then aired on the news, and it is also revealed that he was adopted. Meanwhile, Caden is finally able to reach a bar after evading police capture, and as he's leaving, he sees two bikers beating up a lady. As he tries to get them to leave the lady alone, the men refuse and Caden again turns and kills both men while the lady escapes. He is then able to steal one of the bikes that belonged to the men and head for another place. His next stop is another bar, and after a while of sitting, a man named Joe engages him in a conversation, after which he shows Caden that he's also a wolf and that he knows Caden is one too. Caden looks surprised and immediately wants to know more about wolves and why he was one, even though he'd not been bit. Joe tells Caden he was born with it and he's also a pure breed. He also mentions that there are more like them. Caden sounds surprised to hear this and then says he needs to find the others so he could understand what he was, since he knew nothing. Joe seemingly hesitates, but he then leaves Caden the location through a dart arrow on a map. With that, Caden goes over to the town, and there, he enters yet another bar, where everyone seems to be looking at him. The bartender, Gail, suspiciously asks what he's doing there, and Caden tells her he just decided to stop at the town, and that he was looking for work too. As he then looks around, he spots a man named Connor, who is looking at him strangely. However, his eyes soon catch the attention of the owner of the bar named Angel. Just then, Connor tells the lady beside him, Haley, to go over and meet Caden, and when she does, she tries to get him to dance with her, but he tells her he's not interested, after which she leaves. Angel then gets the chance to ask Caden what his name is, but he tells her the wrong name. He also asks for her name too, but before she can answer, a guy named Deke comes over to pick a fight with Caden, saying Haley told him that Caden harassed her. Caden tells Deke he doesn't know what he's talking about, but Deke and his guys soon look ready to fight. To stop that from happening, Caden leaves and then happens to wait in the bushes until Deke and his guys come out. He would then go over to meet Deke when he's alone. But before they can talk much, Deke turns into a werewolf. However, Caden overpowers him, though Deke is later able to run away. When Caden is about to go for his bike, a man named John sees him and offers him a job on his farm, and Caden agrees. On his first day, Caden meets John's wife, Clara, and immediately starts working, with everything seemingly going great for him until Connor shows up one day. Connor is curious about why John employed a stranger, but before Caden can say much, John is there to defend him, saying Caden is his nephew. Connor doesn't believe this, and also mentions that Deke was beaten by Caden. However, John and Caden are able to deny his accusation, with Caden saying that he only tried to talk to Deke alone after Deke and his guys tried to beat him up at the bar. The next day, the story of the bikers who Caden had killed is featured on the news, but before they can mention his name, he switches the TV off, with Clara and John looking at him surprisingly. He then tells them he wants to go out to town, and as he reaches Angel's bar, a man named Carter comes from nowhere and tells him he had to leave town before cops start coming around. Carter also warns Caden about Connor, saying he was dangerous and he needed to leave before Connor figured him out. Just as Caden and the man are talking, they spot Connor just around, and this allows the man to leave. And with this, Caden heads into the bar, where he first meets a drunk Gail, and then Angel, who tells Caden they're sisters. Soon after, Connor and his pack take Carter to the woods, and there, Connor asks what Carter was telling Caden. When Carter doesn't say much, Connor and his pack then have to hunt Carter as a game. As Caden is on his bike headed home, he hears wolf-like sounds coming from the woods and decides to follow the sound. As he's on his way, he gets startled by Angel, who says Connor and his men killed someone and she wanted to see who. They're then able to make their way to a cliff where they spot Connor's pack as they're feasting on Carter's body parts, something that makes Caden throw up. Angel then confirms to him that Connor and his men were all wolves just like Caden, and he's beyond shocked that she knows about him. When Caden gets back to John's house together with Angel, John and Clara are watching the news where they're talking about Caden. Clara immediately hugs him, saying she was sorry. But Caden doesn't understand as he says it wasn't her fault. However, John says it was his fault. He then talks about how Caden's mother, Lucinda, had been a pure-born wolf who lived in the town until Connor was interested in her. He would then eventually take advantage of her and get her pregnant. And to prevent anyone from knowing, John and Lucinda's father had to fake Lucinda's death, and then later give up her baby for adoption, just days before she took her life. John also tells Caden that more recently, Connor had been thinking of his legacy, and even though he turned all the members of his pack to wolves, he now wants to have a child with Angel as she was a pure-born wolf too, along with Gale, with Clara not being a wolf at all. Later on when they're alone, Angel tells Caden that it was already planned and it was the only way Connor would not kill the people she loved.